hustlers! I'm Alex Laughlin and welcome to Side Hustle. This week, we're going to talk about how to find time to work on your project. One of the biggest questions that I get from people is, how do you find time to work and have a social life and also have side projects? It really comes down to being as organized as possible and having really strict deadlines that you set for yourself. I'm going to assume that if you are starting a project, it is something that means a lot to you and that you care a lot about, whether it's the product that you're creating or the skills that you're cultivating or the community that you're trying to be a part of. There's something that is propelling you to continue working on this project. And so my biggest piece of advice would be to remember that and keep that in your mind. That's the thing that you have to keep coming back to give you the motivation to keep pushing. It is super helpful to set precise deadlines for yourself, whether that is your launch date or the weekly timelines that you're going to have to hit in order to get your project going the right way. If you are writing a blog, make sure that you are publishing regularly, or, with my podcast, I publish every other week. And I will get into that in a second. But it's just really important to set specific, precise deadlines and maybe even tell people about it, because it's a whole lot easier to blow off a deadline when it doesn't exist. And it's a lot harder to flake out on a project if other people are counting on you and waiting for you to follow through. Be realistic about the time that you have and the time that you're willing to dedicate to this project, and then tweak your deadlines accordingly. My podcast publishes every other week. I did that because there's a whole lot of work that goes into each one. I have to research a guest, I have to pitch a guest, they have to say yes, we have to figure out a time that is going to work for both of us to record, we have to go record, I have to edit it and then publish it. So that is 7 big old things that have to happen in order for a podcast episode to exist. I just knew that, knowing myself, I'm really busy and I needed to just pace myself and make sure that I wasn't putting too much pressure on myself, because I knew that if I put too much pressure on myself to hit deadlines like that, a weekly deadline with that amount of work, I would just not do it. While it's important to be publishing regularly or pushing out a product regularly, whatever that product is, it's more important to be consistent. It's more important for people to know that they can count on you to continue delivering on that product, whatever it is. I'm going to keep going back to this example of having a shitty lifestyle blog, but it's so true. How many of you have started a blog or had a friend start a blog that's like, hey, I'm gonna be a blogger now, and they post maybe 5 posts and then don't post for 2 months, and then that next post is like, sorry for not posting, I've been super busy, but I'm really excited, I'm gonna start this up again. That's no fun to read, and your followers are gonna plummet quickly, and you're not gonna grow either. You really need to commit to making this a part of your life, and kind of thinking about it always, and always planning around what your deadlines are going to be. Finding time to make these projects and to do these great things is going to involve some sacrifice. You're going to have to decide sometimes whether you want to go out and hang out with friends or work on your project, whatever it is. Right now, I am choosing to not hang out with my boyfriend so that I can film this video for you guys. And, I will hang out with him later. We're going to get together and he's going to work and I'm going to edit my videos, and that's a great compromise. I talked last week about having a group of friends that are all equally hardworking. That has been a huge, huge resource and huge comfort for me, because sometimes we all have a lot to do, but we still want to see each other, so we'll get together and work together. First episode of the Lady Cast was produced at my friend Lindsay's house, the one that bought me the fashion planner. It was produced on her couch while she was working on homework for her master's degree in computer science. So we are both we were both working on our side hustles together, and that was really great. It's a great feeling to know that you're not alone in your hard work. So one thing that I do to make sure that I have everything in order is I have a really intense organizing system. So I do a combination of a color-coded Google Calendar and bullet journaling. So I'll break that down for you right now. I have a separate email address for the LadyCast, my podcast, and I just have that for registering my domain names and for the Twitter account and all of that. I also use that email address though to create an independent Google Calendar that I can toggle on and off of my regular calendar. I added the LadyCast calendar to my regular Google Calendar, and I have all of my schedule, all of my interview dates, all of my show dates, everything is in the Google Calendar. And I can tell when I look at my calendar, all of the green items on my Google Calendar are LadyCast items, and that's really, really helpful for keeping everything straight. So that brings me to bullet journaling. It's an analog planning notebook system that is basically a way to keep everything super organized in your notebooks and make sure you're getting your stuff done. So the way it works is you have a moleskin notebook or whatever kind of notebook you want. On the first page is your index, and every page of the notebook is numbered. And so the first page is your index. So when you go to page 1, which is here, and this is my running task list for October 12th to 16th. So I do it week by week. And then I just make a list, and I put little boxes next to it, next to each item. And once I fill out the item, once I finish the item, I fill in the box, but I don't cross it out. When you cross it out, that means that it's irrelevant. And at the end of each week, you can migrate. Like, you take a look at your list and see what you haven't accomplished, and then you migrate it to the next week. And then whenever you start a new page, go back to the index and fill it in with what the page is. That way, it's like you're halfway through the notebook and you're like, oh, I remember I journaled about this thing on this day, but I can't remember where I wrote it. Instead of having to flip through the entire notebook, you can just go, bing. But that's what I do to keep my stuff straight. So I have pages dedicated to the podcast. So this one is dedicated to the podcast, and it has my to-do list on that. I have brainstorm pages. This is actually my brainstorm page for this side hustle project, YouTube brainstorm. And so I just have all my notes in it. And it's super simple, but there's a crazy bullet journal community online on YouTube, on Facebook. And if you want to check it out, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can bullet journal, and I am obsessed with it. So that is how I keep my stuff straight. Those are all my tips. I want to know if you guys have any other tips for managing your time and finding time to work on your side hustles. Let me know in the comments or tweet me at Alex Laughs. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Femsplain on YouTube. I will talk to you guys next week. Bye!